Hey everybody, welcome to another PictureMonk photography podcast. This is Jordan from PictureMonk.com, and in this podcast, I'm basically going to be just doing all of your questions. I've had a bunch built up, and I wanted to get rid of them, so I'm not sure if I'm going to do this next week either, but I'm just going to see how many I work out today, and because I don't want to make this a really long podcast, so I'm just going to see how many I work out today, see how much I can get through. And then maybe if I don't have all of them answered or a majority of them answered next week, I'll go ahead and do that. So for this one, I'm not going to go through any news articles. I couldn't really find much that really interested me. That was really kind of honestly, most of the stuff I want to talk about is like NASA photos and stuff like that. So if you haven't followed the NASA Instagram channel, or the Instagram profile, go ahead and do that because they got some really cool stuff. They always release really cool photos. So if you're into space stuff at all, that's a cool thing. I really think I missed my calling. I should have became an astronaut when I was older. So, but anyway, let's go and get to some questions here. The first one is from Michael Wilson. He sent in a bunch, but there's one that I want to do that I just kind of want to throw on the podcast. I'm going to be making a couple videos based off some questions, so if your questions aren't featured here, it's possible that I'm just going to make a video about it later. So let's see. The first question is limitations. What limitations do I have with my kit lens? This is actually a really common question from a lot of people. And so I wanted to answer this one, but also give some examples of what I'm talking about here. So basically, a kit lens, if you're not sure, the name says it all, but it's the lens that comes with the camera. So it's commonly a 18 to 55 or an 18 to 50 or 21 to 70, something like that. It's something around that range. It gives you a little bit of wide angle, but then also a little bit of telephoto, and they usually don't go down below f3.5. So that's basically what a kit lens is. And what limitations do you have? It's kind of based off what you want to photograph. So, if you're really going into real estate photography and that's one of your really big things, or you really want some really wide open nature photography stuff, it's possible that you can get what you want out of your kit lens as far as being wide angle enough, but you might want to invest in a wider angle lens. So if you have a crop sensor camera, maybe like a 10 to 20, 10 to 18, somewhere around there, 10 to 22, I think, a lens like that. If you have a full frame camera, then maybe like the one I have is a 17 to 40 or a 16 to 30, I think is another one. You can really go ultra wide with it and get like a 14 millimeter lens. But there's from what I've seen after taking a bunch of photos with kit lenses, because you get a kit lens and you think it's a crappy lens, but it's really not. It's all determined on what you want to take photos of. So what I'm going to do is if you want to see some examples of photos that I've taken with a cheap kit lens, with back when I had a Canon Rebel T2i. I used the 18 to 55 kit lens and actually broke that kit lens and had to buy another one that was an 18 to 55, but it was the older model of the kit lens because I just couldn't spring the cash to get that newer model. But you can see photos that I've taken if you go to PictureMonk.com/kit lens, and you can see 3 photos that I took with the kit lens. And unless you're really, really, really pixel peeping, which I don't recommend you do, looking 100% all the time with your lenses and stuff, I don't think that's even necessary. But if you're really pixel peeping, yeah, you're gonna be able to tell the difference in sharpness and maybe noise and color clarity and all that kind of stuff. But you're really not gonna notice much difference. Another limitation would be if you want to get like a really blurry background and you want to go for maybe an f1.8 instead of an f3.5, you're not going to be able to get your aperture down that low because your lens can't go down that low. There are ways to get a really blurry background with a kit lens, and that is a video that I will be making. So look out for that on the YouTube channel. But there are ways to do that. So, but there's really hardly any limitations. Yeah, if you get this fancy 70 to 70 to 200 or 200 to 400 or something, whatever, all that L glass and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, if you get that, you're going to get a better image. But is it necessary to spend $1,000 to get that much better of an image, or that little bit better of an image? I don't think so. I'm a big fan of using what you have and making do with what you have. Yeah, buying better stuff is good when you can, but if you're saying, wow, I can't get good photos with what I have, then you need to work on being a better photographer. So having a better eye and a better creativity, just having a better mindset when it comes to that stuff. So that was a very long question, number one. So this might take a while. So thanks, Mike, for the question, and I will be answering a bunch more or doing videos with other questions you have. So let's see. The next one is, how do I organize my Lightroom photos to make it easier to find? This was actually asked by a lot of people, including Michael. This was actually asked by a lot of people this week, or I think last week. I'm going to make a video on that one just to kind of explain my workflow in Lightroom, and it's probably easier to understand that way if I just make a video. So look out for that as well. So thanks a lot of people for answering or for asking that question. Let's see. Question number 3, what are some of my favorite features in Lightroom and Photoshop? And this one is from Sam Donahue. Let's see. Thanks, Sam, for the question. My favorite feature in Lightroom, or some of my favorite features in Lightrooms, they're not really features. Well, I guess they would be features. Snapshots feature, that's my favorite one. I use that all the time, being able to save multiple versions of a photo without having to make a different copy of the photo and filling up your hard drive and all that kind of stuff. Definitely one of my favorite features. Presets are one of my favorite features. Being able to apply something real quick just to kind of get your juices flowing as far as how you might want to edit an image. I think those are the main two that I really use. When it comes to photo editing, Lightroom and Photoshop have basically the same features, like as far as simple editing goes. So I don't really have many that are, that kind of, Photoshop can do a whole lot more than Lightroom. So depending on what you want to do, but they all do basically the advanced photo editing. So like I said, snapshots for Lightroom, presets for Lightroom are definitely my favorite features. You can do stuff in Photoshop that is pretty much similar to presets, and those are Photoshop actions, but you can get a little more advanced with them. As far as just being a favorite feature in Photoshop, I don't really have one. I just like that Photoshop can do a whole lot more. You can definitely dig deep down in the image and do certain specific things to your image that Lightroom can't. You can't take the sky out of something in Lightroom. You can't, you can't place one image on top of another image in Lightroom and blend them together or something, stuff like that. So, I would say that's probably Photoshop being Photoshop is one of my favorite features, but Lightroom definitely, and the organization of it actually, I do kind of like that. It is a little tricky. To go back to question number 2, it is a little tricky to do that and to know where to put your files and if you keyword them and all that kind of stuff. So, but yeah, I guess that's one of my favorite features too. So look for a video on that again. Let's see. Thanks, Sam, for that question. Let's see. Question number 4 is, I have a real estate shoot coming up in the beginning of January. What lenses should I use? I have a Canon T5i, and this is from Brian Adams. So I'm not going to lie. When I first saw Brian Adams, I was like, oh my gosh, the singer, but it's not. It's kind of like the skit in Office Space, that movie from a long time ago, where the guy's name was Michael Bolton. And the guy was like, you must love his music or something like that. So I'm pretty sure, Brian, you get that all the time. So what lenses should you use for a real estate shoot? I would definitely get the widest lens that you have. So if you have a Canon T5i, if you have the kit lens, 18 is as far as you can go. If you do have a wide angle lens, use it. Definitely use it. Let's see. I think the wide angle lens is the only one I would use for that. There are things that I'm starting to do now with some of the real estate stuff that I'm doing is I'm getting the wide open room area and that sort of thing, but I'm also getting detail shots if it allows it. So, if there's stuff I want to accent, I will do that, and it might look a little wonky with a wide angle lens trying to get close up stuff of it. So if you have if you don't have a prime wide angle lens, then zooming in and try to maybe get like a 20 millimeter focal length or something like that would probably work. But if you have your kit lens and a wide angle lens, then definitely take both of those, because you might want to do detail shots of certain things. A lot of designers, I've kind of come to realize this. A lot of designers, when they design a room, and they put the couch here and the pillow and the accent pillows and all this kind of stuff, they'll get a wide open shot. They want a wide open shot of the room to see how they place the stuff. But then they also want detail photos with like where you can see the textures of the fabrics and stuff like that. So that's a kind of important thing. And to do it with a wide angle lens is kind of weird. So using just a regular, what I would call a walk around lens or a standard lens that you have is pretty good thing to do. So thanks, Brian, for the question on that one. And question number 5, this one is from Asia McLean. Says, what happened to the In a Snap episodes? Well, that one is actually a very good question. So when my son was born prematurely and that whole thing, if you've listened to all the podcasts in the previous months and episodes, you know that whole story. But for the In a Snap segments, I was doing the main podcast that you're listening to now. I was doing that every Tuesday, and then every Thursday I was releasing an In a Snap segment. So that's a shorter episode, maybe 3 minutes, 7 minutes long or something like that, where I just drill into one topic. And I kind of started doing that a little bit over the summer, but then I just quit. And because number one, I found that those weren't really listened to that much. And another thing, doing 2 podcasts a week is kind of stretching it for me with the baby and full-time job and all that kind of stuff. So I'm still trying to work out a schedule for as that goes. But so I kind of quit that a little bit and just kind of, when I can, roll it into the big podcast and the Tuesday podcast. And so that's kind of what happened there. Coming up next year, in the next year, I have more plans to do stuff. I'm going to see how that works out, but I have more plans to do stuff, and it might actually involve your guys' support. So just keep listening to the podcast and keep an eye out for that. So if you really are interested, send me tweets and stuff like that, or send me messages and let me know if you really want it back. That's what happened to it. Stuff happens, life happens. So, but thanks, Asia, for the question. If you do have something that you want me to kind of touch on, like I would touch on in the In a Snap segments, please feel free to email me. So let's see. The next one is when shooting HDR images, what do you use for process your images? Okay, that was really weird. What do you use to process your images? I'm imagining what you're trying to say. What is your workflow? And that one's from Bob G. It's kind of a weird question that came up. I think I cherry picked this one just for this reason, but my dad and I were actually having a conversation yesterday about editing or working with HDR images, and we both were really big HDR proponents in the past, and now we're just kind of drifting away from it. And like him, I can't remember the last time that I actually made an HDR image. HDR can be defined as advancing the dynamic range on your image. I mean, that's basically what it is, a high dynamic range image. So even increasing the highlights and decreasing the highlights and increasing the shadows when you have it in Lightroom, technically you're making a high dynamic range image. But when people hear HDR, they mean like the super crunchy, everything's soft and blurry and all this kind of stuff, photomatic stuff. They think of that. And so that part of HDR I have not done in forever. Even Lightroom has the baked-in HDR feature, and I haven't touched that at all. I just don't really do much bracketing anymore. I get it pretty much close in camera, and then I start messing with it in Lightroom and Photoshop. So I haven't really had the reason to do regular HDR images. But that did prompt another conversation that we had, where I think I'm going to, because there are a lot of people out there that still do HDRs. I think I am going to do a kind of a video series or a tutorial or something like that on how I would do HDR images if I still did them. And sometimes, if I get like a really cool landscape image and I really want to bring out more detail in a lot of areas, I will do an HDR. I'm not ruling it out, but I just haven't had the opportunity to do one. So I am going to make a video about that. So sorry, Bob, that didn't really answer your question. But I will answer it in a video. So if you're not subscribed to the YouTube channel, go ahead and do that. So look for that coming up soon. And question number 7 is, I am looking to get a Canon 6D. And since you use it, why did you buy it over the Canon 5D Mark III? That is from T. Simpson. That's a tough one. I did a lot of research because I had a good $3,000 that I could use to buy a new camera and a new lens, and I knew the lens I wanted was $600. So I had $2,800 plus or minus tax to buy the camera that I wanted. And after doing a lot of research on the Canon 6D and the Canon 5D Mark II, because those were the main two cameras that I wanted, I found that the Canon 6D and the 5D have the same imaging sensor. So with noise performance and video performance and color and all that kind of stuff, everything should pretty much be the same. Where they differ is the Canon 5D Mark III has a lot more focusing points. It's got a little bit more... I guess a professional looking body and all that kind of stuff. Whatever. I don't care about all that. But the main reason, to tell you the truth, the main reason why I got the Canon 6D over the 5D Mark III is built-in Wi-Fi. That's the main reason, other than price, because it's probably about $1,800 cheaper when I was looking at it. So the main reason I got that was price, but also the built-in Wi-Fi. Because what I was going to do was get a Canon 5D Mark III, get my wide-angle lens, and then get the Cam Ranger, which, if you're not sure what a Cam Ranger is, it's basically just a little thing that you plug up to your camera, and it broadcasts the image and lets you change everything from your smartphone or your iPad or something like that. And so I wanted to have that ability, but the Canon 5D or the Canon 6D had that built-in feature. And so I was like, well, why pay $300 or $200 for a Cam Ranger when I can have pretty much the same features built in? Yeah, the Cam Ranger has a lot more flexibility on certain things, but for the nuts and bolts, nitty gritty, what I wanted, the built-in Wi-Fi feature for the 6D was pretty much what I wanted. So that's the main reason I got it. I really love the camera. I see it being a camera that I had for a very, very long time. But honestly, if you're looking to get a Canon 6D or a 5D Mark III, I'd really hold off if you can, because my 6D is almost like 4 years old or 3 years old or something like that. The 5D Mark III is older than that. So I would hold off, because I would hope that Canon would release another camera if they're going to put out anything in that model, in the prosumer model. Or the professional model, I guess. The 5D Mark III is definitely a professional model, but I would consider mine a advanced amateur model. It does the same thing pretty much. And it's also a full frame, which is... I wanted to go from a crop sensor to a full frame. There are drawbacks and stuff with going from crop to full, but I really wanted a full frame. So let's see, how far are we in here? We're about almost 19 minutes or over 19 minutes. Yeah, I'm going to wrap up with one more. And this one is from Henry Davis, and it says, what camera should I buy to become a better photographer? All right, well, I'm going to end this one on a doozy. You need to buy the camera you can afford. This is my opinion. You need to buy the camera you can afford and work with that. That's basically what it is. No camera is going to make you a better photographer. The only thing a camera is going to do is make you have clearer images, if you know what you're doing. So the reason I bought my camera that I just talked about, the reason I bought my camera is because I had the opportunity, I had the money, and also I outgrew my old camera that I had for 5-6 years. And so the things that I wanted to accomplish with my personal projects and my photography and stuff was my camera was limiting me by what it could do. So I bumped up my camera, and now I basically have the ability to do whatever I want to do for the most part with the setup that I have. So Henry, little tough love here. You don't need a better camera to become a better photographer. You need to become a better photographer to become a better photographer. You kind of, it's like one of those things where you kind of just need to, you need to find what you like as far as photography goes. You need to study it. You need to get inspiration from a lot of different photographers, a lot of different editors out there as far as how they edit photos. You just gotta find what you want. You gotta find what you want and dissect what other people do to try to figure out how they did it. So, that would be my advice. But to answer your question, I would buy the camera that you can afford, and like kill that camera. Just like find out the nuts and bolts feature in it. Find out how to use your camera in manual mode or aperture priority or something like that, and just play with flash, play with lighting on your camera, not the built-in, but actually get a flash unit, and just kill the features of your camera so you know exactly everything to do with it. So thanks, Henry, for the question, but that's really kind of what I would say to that question. I love those questions. I love it when I get what camera should I buy, or what lens should I buy, or stuff like that. I love those questions because I get everybody wants a really good camera, and I want a really good camera too. I want like 15 cameras. I would love a medium format camera, but there's no reason for me to have one. There's no reason for me to spend that much, because number one, my wife's not going to let me, but there's really no reason to get a really, really big, expensive camera and you don't even know how to use it. So, that's basically it. So that way, that way you kind of can play around with what you have and just work with it. I'm just a huge proponent of that. Just make it work for what you want. So, thanks guys for listening to the podcast. I think I kind of rambled on about a bunch of these, but if you're still with me, thank you very much. To quote something from another podcast that I listen to, if you guys know, it's called the 10 Minute Podcast. Every time I end one of these podcasts, I want to say preach, because they always say preach. So appreciate you, preach. So anyway, thanks guys for listening. I'm not really going to have much to do for show notes on this one, but again, Michael, to answer your question, remember to go to PictureMonk.com/kitlens, and you can see kind of the details I was talking about there as far as yours goes. So, thanks guys for listening. Very, very much appreciated. Rate the podcast if you can. We're on iTunes and Stitcher. And so check out that. If you want to rate it, I would very much appreciate that. Preach. And thanks for listening, guys, and I will talk to you guys next week.